I very much felt like I didn't belong at BYU. I got the courage. I actually walked in the building. I walked into his office. On the door, his name was Kevin, and it was Kevin Worthen.
Say what?
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
I grew up in a community that was not predominantly LDS. There were very few members of the church in my high school, and it was one of the biggest high schools in the state of New Mexico. So it was a big high school with very few members of the church. And I remember getting, by the way, my mom would have loved for me to go to Utah State. So we didn't have deep ties to BYU, but I came to BYU just with the hope that things would be great. And I got here, and it was anything but great. I remember going to even my first class, and it was a large enrollment class. I remember going to the bookstore and waiting in a long line, and them not asking me for my name, but asking me for my ID number.
Yeah.
Like, oh, am I a number now? Because I thought, I like being called by my name. I hadn't made a lot of friendships in my first few weeks. I'm sure there was a little bit of homesickness. I probably wasn't willing to admit that was driving some of what I was feeling, but suffice it to say that I very much felt like I didn't belong at BYU. I wasn't used to being surrounded by all of those members of the church, and candidly, that was weird for a guy who had kind of grown up without being surrounded. The bulk of my friends weren't members of the church in my high school, and I just felt a little lost. And I remember telling my mom, I'm an only child, and my mom raised me as a single parent. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, this is not what I was expecting. I'm ready to go home. And my mom's very understanding. She's also kind of raised me with tough love. But she said, I knew that she knew that I was really uncomfortable and unhappy when her answer was, okay, look, I'll roll up there, I'll come pick you up, and we'll bring you back, and you can go to UNM, which was kind of my backup school.
So you're done.
I was done. No, I was out. It was
you were
not
out.
I was out.
She's coming.
She was coming. She was scheduled to come up, and without asking me, she happened to reach out to my bishop at home. A guy it was my bishop for the whole time I was growing up. You know that one bishop who's your bishop that you think of when you think of your youth. This was the guy. His name was Clyde, and she said, "Listen, Bishop, Shane's struggling up there at BYU," and he was an alum, and said, "Hey, you should have him reach out to my brother. My brother happens to be on the law school faculty at BYU. He'd love to visit with him. And just before you go make this trip up from Albuquerque, which is where my mom lived, to Provo to pick Shane up, just see if he'd be willing to go talk to my brother." Well, it turns out my mom called me, and I thought, well, it's a long trip up, so what's it going to hurt? I was super intimidated. I had not met any faculty members. I had no connection to any faculty members. And candidly, they scared the bejeebers out of me.
Of course.
I was like, no way I'm going to go talk to this faculty member. So I really almost talked myself out of it. And I remember walking up to the law school, which it looks, it's kind of this imposing building. Yeah, it looks like a castle.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. And I almost turned back when I was walking up to his office, because I'd reached out to him. Age dates me, but it was before email. So I reached out to him over phone, and he said he could meet with me. So I walking up there, I got the courage. I actually walked in the building. I walked into his office, and on the door, his name was Kevin, and it was Kevin Worthen.
Say what?
Yeah.
That's
Kevin
so crazy.
Was a young law professor. He hadn't been on the faculty for a long time. He was a fairly new professor, and he welcomed me into his office. And I don't remember the exact words that he said, but I do remember one thing in particular, one idea, and that he said, "Look, I think it wasn't profound, but I think if you'll give BYU a chance, you'll grow to really like it here." And here's what it meant to me. This was a faculty member who then knew my name. And when you're feeling like only your student ID number rather than your name, you start to feel like you no longer are a person.
Yeah.
You're an entity. But he called me by my name, and I knew he knew my name, and he knew that for a moment there someone cared about me. And I remember walking out of that office with a new resolve that I was going to stick it out. I called my mom and I said,
really?
Why don't I give it another couple weeks? Because I think I might be able to do this. And it just took someone acknowledging me as a person.